Welcome everybody. Today we are with Joey, who has been a long time viewer of the channel here. We're going to talk about his whole hair loss transformation journey and story. So I'm super excited about this. How you doing today, Joey?
Dude, I'm like a kid in the candy store.
That's awesome to hear. That's awesome to hear, man. Real quick before we begin, everybody, I love doing these transformation stories and talking about your hair loss story, whether you chose to wind up shaving your head or getting a hair system or anything in between. So please send me an email, leave a comment if you do want to do something like that down below. So Joey, let's just jump right into it, man. Tell me, your origin story when it comes to dealing with hair loss. Take me as early as possible in the journey of when you became aware of it and how it affected you.
It was pretty early on. It was like 16, 17. I would say it became noticeable 18, 19. That's when I was like, I see my dad, I'm just gonna shave this. I'm not gonna do the like comb over, all that kind of stuff. It was tough.
So you lost your hair pretty early then, before you were 20, and your dad has male pattern baldness as well.
You can tell when you look at your parents and like you start losing it, and then you look at your dad specifically, you're like, I don't think this is a deficiency. I think this is like obviously genetic kind of thing. At least for my case, everybody's different, but for me, it was definitely like one look at him, I'm like, all right, this is this is just a genetic lottery. I lost, yeah. But yeah, then I didn't want to do the comb over. I didn't want to do any of that stuff. I shaved it. I really didn't like, because it was such a drastic transition, and it's such a I'm sure if I did it at like my 30s, it would have been whatever, but I think because it happened so young, it shocked me kind of, and then opened more insecurities of like, all right, what can I do to fix this? Like, I went down that road of like, what's out there, Rogaine, finasteride, all that, the usual suspects. I didn't really touch Rogaine at all, or even consider it, just because of I don't like how it affects your heart, your cardiovascular system. That kind of really scared me. So I went on finasteride, and I didn't even know it was called finasteride. I just saw an ad for, I think it was Keeps, where it's like, they say like, oh, balding is a choice kind of thing. You just take this drug, take this pill, you're good to go, you'll get it all back. And I thought, wow, this is awesome. I just take this and I get it all back. It's awesome. And I took it for 2 weeks, and oh man, I am so glad that not that I got off the drug, but I noticed quickly like I was having side effects. Like, I only had one, particularly. It was the worst mental fog. It was unbelievable. Like, and I couldn't even like write something. It was just so bad. And then when I looked up like, what is this? I was like, whoa, I gotta stop taking this immediately. And then kind of dropped off from there for a while until lockdown. It got progressively worse and worse. Like, I would only go out at night, and it kept bothering me so much. And then finally I stumbled upon a YouTuber, Mike Thurston, and he's talking about hair transplants. And I know this is weird to a lot of people, but I didn't even know like hair transplants were a thing. I didn't know that you could do that. And it was crazy how much better he looked after he did the transplant. I'm like, wow, okay, this is one-stop shop solution. I'll just do this. And it turns out like not a single hair on my head is safe. It's all just total thin. So that wasn't an option. Then a while from there, I stumbled upon a BuzzFeed video of like, it was a guy, he was like, bald man tries semi-permanent hair piece or something like that. And I didn't think much of it. I thought, oh, this isn't really a real option. But then I saw the comments of like, everyone was saying how much better he looked with the hair system. I was like, I have to look at this, and I just, jumped I went for the plunge about 5 days ago. I don't know, for 5 days, and I think it's the honeymoon phase.
Wait, so this is
Yeah,
5 days ago?
this is 5 days. I'm wearing it down and like kind of messy because uh, I'm just still kind of insecure about the hairline, even though I wore it
Yeah.
up first day because hairstylists they do it up first day, and it's perfect. You know, like I just went out, it was fine, but I'm just got to get out of my own head. But it looks perfect. It looks flawless. It's like all that stuff.
Cool. All right. Well, so let's dissect some of that stuff just because I
Yeah,
let you talk for a couple minutes there. So, um, when you lost your hair and you shaved your head, what did that feel like? You said that it shocked you and you kind of started looking for solutions. Like, when did you keep your head shaved after that until you tried some different solutions, or what was
it
that
was
process
honestly
like?
a back and forth. Like the first time I shaved it, I was just like, cause I don't know how. I'm sure your viewers probably can empathize with the feeling of like, wow, I have no control over this kind of thing. That's the best way. Because if I shave my head normally, it's like, well, at least I have the option. That was just a bad hairstyle or grow it out. But it felt like really trapping. It was like, oh, this is you now. This is you for the rest of your life. So I went through like back and forth of trying to grow it out, trying to not, and then just getting uh, just upset with the whole thing, and then shaving it again. It was back and forth for a couple years.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. And for sure, I mean, that's definitely something like you're hitting
Yeah,
on. That's a very real thing that we got to deal with, is like when it's not a matter of choice, but like, hey, I am trying to shave my head as an option to deal with my hair loss. It can feel like a sentencing,
yeah,
so to speak. Like, this is my life now, and this is who I am. This is my identity. And what I'm hearing you say is that it shocked you, and you didn't necessarily want that identity. And once you experienced it, you're like, nope, that ain't it. Not right
yeah,
now.
exactly. So something to that effect. Something of more of like it's just such a dramatic transition at such a young age, kind of thing. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I have a friend who he's decided to like deal with his hair loss very different than I have. Meaning, like, he decided to shave his head, and he was just like, well, if I kind of go through this practice now, by the time that I'm 35, I'll have aged gracefully. Like that, people know that as my identity, that I just have a shaved head, and they won't think anything of it, which I thought was really interesting. But more power to him if that's
Oh
what he
yeah.
chooses to do. So you spent at least a couple years, it sounds like, kind of moving back and forth through the shaving the head, trying solutions, trying this, trying that, ended hair transplants. Now, during that time period where you were kind of trying to find a solution, so now you're like, okay, I'm trying to actively do something about this. How did that affect, your confidence, but your life as a whole, whether your relationships, how you socialize with people, your relationships? Did you notice that it was affecting
Oh yeah.
any of
Like
that?
it's hard to admit, especially I used to be like such a proud guy, kind of like that type, but it broke me. Like I went from the high school job to like, oh, you peaked. This is it. Like it just ate at me every day. I lost, I don't. I lost all my friends. I didn't hang out with any friends anymore because I got insecure about that. I only went out at night because like the light is see through for hair during the day with sunlight, and I was like,
Mm-hmm.
nope, okay, only going out at night. Um, it affected everything. It's and a lot of people in that are just it was for me it was so that was one of the you know it really sucked. It just like because it creates a brand new you. It's a totally new thing, at least for me, and it ate with everything else. It just messed with everything else. It's like you're no longer confident to go out. You're no longer confident to date. You're no longer confident to even work out. Like even going to the gym. Like I went to the gym and I'd be self-conscious on the treadmill or working out. Like oh somebody's looking behind my head, something like that. Um, it honestly was a huge shift in how I lived my life and it was just hair, but it changed everything.
How did it change everything? Like, try to describe it to me in words.
Kind of the, like you touch upon, the confidence. You lose all your confidence, and the biggest thing is you lose your youth early. It's like when you shave your hair, you look older. Objectively, you look older. You know, if you look good or not, that's subjective. That's, you know, up to everybody's interpretation. But you definitely do look older for sure. And that's what messed with me, because it happened because I was in, like, you know, in my teens. I was like, wow, I look, you know, 35, but I'm 19. And that specifically, and yeah, I would say confidence. Confidence was the biggest thing that kind of went out the window when that happened. And at least for me personally, when confidence went out the window, it's just like a domino effect of just, okay, I don't have my confidence, so I'm not confident enough to do this. I don't have my confidence, so I'm not confident enough to do this. It was just a total, I just became like a recluse, and kind of just everything else kind of stopped along with it.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, I had a very similar experience, I feel like, to that, so I can relate to that. I think like one of the things that affects us as men is when we feel like we can't like affect change in the thing in our life that we want to change. It's very disempowering. Right. And you know, shaving the head is like the first option that comes to mind. It's like I guess the easiest as far as like maintenance, and just like that's kind of the oldest solution in the book. And trying to find the solution that works for a person, which maybe shaving the head, but maybe a hair system, maybe a transplant requires more work, more effort. You know, it's something that it can be tough to find, but I think once we find that right solution, whatever it is for any individual person, start to feel more like ourselves. We start to feel a little bit more like we have some control, which it's kind of hard to deal with when we don't feel like we have control over anything in our life, and especially like something physical or genetic.
Yeah. It's that you definitely hit the nail on the head. At least for me personally, it's just that I didn't have control over what I physically looked like. That was the biggest like confidence shattering kind of. And you kind of notice your mortality very early on too. From that, you're like, oh wow, I don't have control over this. That means I don't have control over other stuff. Like, I don't know. And I think I naturally overthink as well. So I just, it snowballed for me. I know a lot of people are probably going to watch this and think, wow, I'm way tougher than you. I wouldn't let something like that. That's just for me that a lot of my security and a lot of my confidence came from hair and how I look. It's you know, shallow, but that was like 90% of what I based my self-confidence around.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's especially shallow. And as far as if people think that, it doesn't matter. You know, we're not doing it for them, and whatever makes them feel good. We all have our things that we do to make us feel more like us. And anybody that attacks anybody, whether it's over their hair or any personal choices, it's just, it doesn't matter, man. And just kind of ignore the voices. One of the reasons I stopped responding to a lot of comments on YouTube was just because I don't need overly, I don't need criticism unless it's constructive, number one. And, you know, I don't care to hear what people have to say about me. Like, I know that as someone that makes videos, I kind of have some small figurehead, and, you know, people want to communicate back and forth. But at the end of the day, you know, I'm doing what makes me feel good. I'm not doing it for anybody else. And I'm not going to be the recipient of that type of communication. I'm not going to let an improper boundary be crossed for people where they think that they can dictate, one, what I do with my life, and two, how I feel about my choices. And I think that's something that, you know, maybe we need to talk a little bit more about on this channel, and that is, you know, personal boundaries when it comes to our decisions versus what other people's opinions
Yeah.
are. Yeah. So let's just jump a little bit further into it. So, you know, finally you found a hair system and you're 5 days into this jam, which is crazy, man. You're just a young pup. You're wet behind the ears. So that's super cool. How did you go about transitioning into a hair system? You know, is this something you got done in a salon? Is this something you did all yourself?
So I went to a salon about 5 weeks ago, 6 weeks ago, and for the consultation, get the measurements, all that kind of stuff. And then the day came about 5 days ago, Saturday I'm gonna check it. Yeah, it was Saturday the 9th. I'm in there.
Okay.
And they said, hey, your system's ready, come on in. They shaved my head and then they put it on, and it was awesome. I like the fact that I didn't feel it. I'm really critical about like, if it feels like anything like constricting or anything like that, it's game over, because it's gonna eat at me and it's gonna like. But I'm honestly shocked. Like, I won't feel it 23 out of 24 hours every day. I will not feel it. The other hours, you know, sometimes it gets itchy. I think that's just me being a newbie or more stuff I gotta learn. But I am super shocked at how it doesn't feel like any. It just feels like my hair. It's insane.
That's cool. What kind of system are you wearing?
Full
Do you know?
plastic, so I'm assuming that's full poly, like not. Yeah.
Yep.
That's poly.
Yep, that's poly. So what was that like for you when they shaved your head? Was it tough for you psychologically, or were you just ready for it?
It's tough to see yourself like that, where you have like the horseshoe. That was really tough. But you know, you gotta do what you gotta do. You gotta take that shade and put it on and hope for the best. I grew it out for like a solid 2 months. So it was like, and I'm the baseball cap guy, so I'm like wearing the hat all the time and letting it grow out. So it was tough seeing that much time of hair go away, but you know, I'm happy with the results. So it's not gonna wood. So all solid so far.
Okay, cool, good stuff. So, you know, 5 days into it, you're still pretty fresh. You're getting used to it. You know, what are the things that you're thinking about right now? What's on your mind as far as hair system stuff or hair loss stuff?
Super into like being rough with everything I own, and that kind of translates to this. I don't see any, like, other than your video about the CrossFit, and like there's a couple other videos about stress testing it. I am so that, like, immediately after I got it, I have a Jeep and I just took the top off and all this stuff, and I was like, let's see what this does, and it's perfect. It's like, that's definitely one of my goals, is to stress test the heck out of it, see what the limits are, see what I can get away with doing. That's definitely something, and with all types of systems too, not just poly. Like, I really want to stress test it. That's kind of my goals for the next few months.
Okay, that's dope. So any plans for how you're gonna stress test?
Definitely. I have a sauna day. I'm just gonna do a day full of like at least 4 or 5 sessions of sauna, like really try and see the limits of it. I have a day where I'm just gonna be out in the sun all day. So I'm just gonna try and do all of that kind of stuff, try and see where the limits are, what's going on with this, and in a weird way that brings me confidence. I know it's gonna sound weird, but like knowing exactly where and you know the limits are, that's kind of what I love to do that with all the stuff I own.
No, that makes sense to me. I did the same exact thing, and I continue to do it. I mean, now I'm at the point where I don't feel like I have to prove anything to myself or like that it's going to be okay. But I 100% went through a phase where I was like, okay, I'm going to purposefully experiment here. And every single time after the fact, I would have more confidence that I really could go do anything. Anything like plot twist, any video I make where I'm like, I'm going to go do this thing, before I even go do it, I know it's going to it's going to be okay. I have that much confidence in it, but it's something that does, you get a lot of confidence out of the experimentation and testing things that, you know, you do want to do inside of your life, and you know that you're going to do on a day-to-day basis. My big hypothesis is do everything you can to make it as normal as you can, meaning like, don't augment your life at all. Like, go live your life and see how it reacts to it, and then find a solution to that problem, or else it'll be an obstacle to you living your life. And anytime there's anytime there's a barrier to something inside of our life, if the other thing is more important, we're going to get rid of the thing that's an obstacle. So find out if it's going to be an obstacle. For me, I've already found out that the answer is that it's not really an obstacle to anything that I want to do. At least I haven't found anything like that yet, and I've done some pretty crazy stuff. But I think it's awesome. I think that you're right on the money when it comes to gaining confidence with the hair system, and it looks like it's something that's bringing you some joy right now. So I think that's awesome. You have any thoughts, any words to those that are a little bit sooner along in the journey than you? So maybe they're not 5 days in, maybe they're thinking about getting a hair system. What would you say to them?
Honestly, you don't lose anything from trying. You do not lose anything from trying. I beg people that are at least like on the fence, or even say like, oh, this is definitely not for me. What does it hurt? Just trying it and seeing if it's something that'll work for you. Because I think I was one of those people where I was like, this is probably not gonna work for me. But here I am 5 days in, I've slept in it, I've showered in it, I've gotten, the doors out full wind, I've worked out in it, and I'm really critical about it, but I'm insanely impressed. It's something that I never thought that I would have on my head and not feel it. That's insane. So I 1,000,000,000% recommend anybody who's even on the fence about it to just try it, because you don't lose anything from trying.
Super cool. Awesome. Well, thank you, man, for sharing your advice and for sharing your thoughts with me and everybody else inside of this community. I appreciate it, and I know that they do too. Anybody that's watching this and you got a story that you want to talk about, whether it ends in you having a hair system, hair transplant, using drugs, or shaving your head, I want to hear from you, and I want to hear your story, because those are what inspire other people to take action. So please do reach out, and we'll talk about that. And thank you once again to you, Joey, for talking through your entire situation and where you're at. Much appreciated. Everybody, we'll see you soon, and have a great day.